Hey there, welcome again to Query and Schultz here on the ISC Sports Network. Jake Query, Derek Schultz, proudly presented, by the way, Derek, and these masks are fabulous. WGU gave us these masks. This is wonderful. And you want to talk, by the way, top flight fashion. WGU mask and this shirt from the shop Indy. The shop, of course, on Broderpool Avenue, also in Carmel, Clay Terrace, and the shop right now has a $15 Adidas line with proceeds helping to go to the Indiana Sports Corps. WGU, of course, now closing in on 10 years. Ambition never sleeps, Derek, for WGU.
Did we finally get Sage out of here? Like, what did they do?
You know what? We had
to
a
get
meeting
him
the
out
other
of
day,
here.
Derek. I'm glad you mentioned that.
They called animal control?
Sage the mascot, the owl. We did some research last week, had a couple of meetings about it. Kids love him. They just love him.
I don't remember any meetings last week.
Yeah,
so I also don't remember anybody saying that they love Sage.
I'm telling you, kids absolutely love
You're lucky
Sage.
that I came back this week.
Owls never sleep, as we know. Neither does the ambition of WGU. And Derek, basically, the Colts could have essentially sleptwalked their way against the New York Jets. The Jets, nothing against what the Colts were able to do, but, man, the Jets are terrible.
Yeah, can't we kind of just, like, re-rack last week's show? You know what I mean? It was the same dominant performance.
It was a very good performance.
But, you know, I'm a big believer. Say what you want about the Jets. Look, the Jets are a rotting corpse of a football team.
Rotting corpse.
Right? They're beyond – they're decayed beyond recognition. They are – if they're not the worst team in the league, they're the second worst team to the other team in New York, which is the Giants. I mean, both of the New York teams stink. But generally good teams take bad teams and they stick them in a trash can. And that's what the Colts did on Sunday against the Jets.
Did you say a decaying corpse?
Yeah, decayed beyond recognition. Like you have to get the dental records for the Jets to make sure that is indeed the New York Jets, that body that you dug
Actually,
up.
the dental records for the Jets, if you really want them, you just have to go to like the Colts roster from 3 years ago.
That's right. They have a lot of. Remember the Titans were like that in the early 2000s, where like Ben Hartsock and a lot of the old Colts would go
David
over there.
Thornton went there.
Yeah. And now the Jets have become that team. But I was very impressed. Again, this is the second straight week where I thought the Colts didn't play a perfect game. I thought offensively there are still some things, notably on third down, that they need to clean up. I thought they left some points on the field. But to win by almost 30 points in the NFL is unheard of. I don't care how bad the Jets are. The Colts completely dominated that game.
It was a big day for Phillip Rivers because he, set some marks within the NFL, becoming, I think, the seventh quarterback to throw, seventh or eighth for 400 career touchdowns.
I think he's the sixth in both categories.
I think he's seventh in one.
I think I just looked it up, and he's sixth.
Well, you
might
have looked it up incorrectly off your own stats. I think there were 6 others.
I've never looked up anything incorrectly in my entire life.
Okay. But either way, he has 400 now career touchdown passes, 60,000 career yards. Obviously, the vast majority of those coming in his previous stop. But nonetheless, efficient day. Jonathan Taylor, efficient day, but we'll get to that because there could be some things you could nitpick if you really wanted to. And then my guy, Mo Alley Cox, continues to show that he is a weapon. But what we now know, Derek, is that if Phillip Rivers is comfortable with Mo Alley Cox, he's going to have to continue to be because his targets continue to drop. By the way, they're not decaying corpses just yet, but there are some injury problems with the Colts.
Yeah, now, unfortunately, rookie Michael Pittman is going to miss basically the first half of his rookie season. He's not going to be back until after the bye with the leg injury, which he just had surgery on, so you feel for him there.
How peculiar is that he grabs his lower leg in the second half, he feels something uneasy about it Sunday evening, and boom, they do surgery right away. So, I mean, thankfully, right, that they were able to figure out what that was. It's a medical term that I know nothing about, okay? However, prognosis like 6 to 8 weeks.
From what I understand, and I don't know, do we need to preface that we're not doctors? It's probably pretty clear. I mean, I think we're both really intelligent, good-looking people, so you'd think maybe that we might have some of that in our background.
Yeah,
we are not doctors, but my understanding is
we are more likely to be confused not for ER as a TV show, but Wayne's World.
As long as there's not an infection or any kind of complication, then everything should be okay.
But I don't
that's
disagree.
just my loose understanding of it.
If you have a new car that really is, you buy a new car and you take it out and you're driving it around, you're like, this car is far more than, this is a really smooth ride. And he's been that so far, Pittman. He's been a nice player for them very, very early.
Mm-hmm.
If all of a sudden something starts rattling and you take it to the mechanic and they're like, we're going to have to make some changes to your transmission. We caught this early enough that it's not a huge issue, but you might want to baby it a little bit when you first bring it back. I think that's what they're going to do here. They do need him because he's a critical piece, and we'll see where the Colts are in terms of the standings 8 weeks from now. But it would not surprise me if they handle this with kid gloves.
Yeah, and what you worry about now is
investment.
you don't have Paris Campbell for months, maybe the entire season.
Correct.
You don't have Pittman at least for the next 6-8 weeks, something like that. T.Y. Hilton has not looked like his usual self. And suddenly you start looking at this receiver depth chart and you're like, oh, God, is this going to be – the last couple of years, Jake, the Colts have kind of gotten by on some old chewing gum and a couple of balls of string. You know what I mean? Like at wide receiver – like the little tinfoil wrapper from the double mint that you put in your pocket and you forgot about. Like, that's essentially what the Colts have thrown out there at wide receiver.
Why would you put the tinfoil in your pocket?
So Zach Pascal has been one of your top guys.
Do you chew the gum and then you put the tinfoil back in your pocket? Most people put the gum in and then the tinfoil you throw away.
Have you ever chewed gum before?
Why would you put the tinfoil back in your pocket?
Have you chewed gum before?
Yeah.
What you do is you take the tinfoil, you put it in your pocket. When you're done chewing the gum, you unwrap the tinfoil that's in your pocket, deposit the gum in the tinfoil, crumple that up, and then put that in your pocket before you can find a trash can.
Where are you chewing gum? In the middle of Kansas? There's not a trash can near you when you put the gum in.
Yep.
You take the wrapper, right? You throw it away. You're done with the gum. You either throw it away or you just take it out and lock it. You've never just taken gum out of your mouth to see how far you can throw it?
Jake, look, I know you like to play loosey-goosey with the rules. I don't litter. So
that's not littering.
I try to take the tinfoil and make sure that the gum is in there. You've been around me when I've chewed gum before. You hate when I chew gum, by the way. You're like my wife.
Ever.
You have some sort of a mental complex about people eating around you. Mm-hmm. And so whenever, like I had an apple once, a healthy, delicious apple in my office. And you came in and started cursing at me loudly. And I'm just trying to eat a Granny Smith apple.
It was disgusting. You're an open-mouth chewer.
I absolutely I am not.
You 100% are an open-mouth chewer.
I may be a high volume as far as the sound of the chewing, but it is closed mouth chewing.
Okay. High volume is what the yardage is expected out of Jonathan Taylor, the running back for the Colts, the rookie. Derek, he continues to impress. However, there seems to be, I'm not going to say Trent Richardson level, okay, but is there concern for you that at times he doesn't seem to see the opening hole and is going, as a straight line runner, or rather, also at times dancing around a little bit instead of being a straight. In other words, when he needs to be straight line, he seems to dance a little bit. When he needs to dance a little bit, he's going straight line. Phillip Rivers even at one point was like, trying to point to him, you got to go here, you got to go here. Is there concern at all that his vision is not where it needs to be?
No, he's played 3 games. He didn't have a preseason. So I think this is a natural progression of a rookie. Jonathan Taylor wasn't Saquon Barkley. He wasn't the second pick in the draft, and you need him to hit now. He's a second-round pick. So I think it's natural that there's going to be a little bit of progression there. The good news is that the Colt that has the best vision, and I think, to me, pound for pound, not the most talented, but the best runner that they have is Jordan Wilkins. He's their best runner.
You know what's funny?
He always knows where he should be.
I think of, and this is the luxury, right, of being able to have a core that allows for this discussion. I think Nyheim Hines is right there in terms of his ability, his shiftiness, if you will, and his versatility out of the backfield.
I'm just talking like straight vision and knowing exactly where to go and following where the play should go and improvising if you have to. And I think Wilkins is really good at that. And that guy's essentially he's your RB3. I guess he's kind of your
Nobody
RB2.
Says RB3.
As far as the carries are concerned.
Third string running back.
But depth chart-wise, he's basically your RB3.
Nobody says that.
But he's a really nice RB3 to have.
What gum do you chew?
Usually bubble tape was a big one for me.
Bubble tape?
Yeah, it comes in the big pink oval.
Okay, then where's the tinfoil for you? When you get done with your bubble tape,
I've had
what
double
did you
mint
do with it?
and juicy fruit
but
and all
when you
that.
had the bubble tape, what did you do with the gum when you were done?
You don't want to be grossed out, do you? Because I can tell you.
If you tell me that you put it back in the tape container with the unchewed gum.
No.
Okay.
When I chewed bubble tape in like Little League or Big League Chew, I'd stick it behind my ear. So I'd chew it, and then I'd lodge it kind of in between
Yeah, no.
like my earlobe, and then the earlobe would catch right there, so it would hold it in place. And then later in the innings, I could take it out and chew it again if I needed to, or find a trash can if I needed to dispose of it.
You are one of the most disgusting people I've ever met.
You asked. You open up the door. Don't be mad when you open up Pandora's box and you don't like what's in it.
That's put it behind your ear.
Yeah. Lots of people do that. It's a common thing.
Okay.
It's a common thing.
Right. Yeah, there are other psychopaths that played Little League Baseball.
There are lots of people that do that.
Were you a good Little League Baseball player?
No, I played 2 years. I never got a hit. I was a great third base coach. So
really?
waving people in and stuff like that, I was very good at. Also, I was great at doing batting stances. So a lot of the kids on the other team would ask me to do like Ricky Henderson and stuff like that. So I was gifted in other areas.
Did you do a lot of Eddie Goodell?
I'm not familiar with. Did he play in the late 80s, early 90s, Major League Baseball?
St. Louis Browns had a brief career.
St. Louis Browns?
Yeah.
No, dude. I was born in
Sportsman
1983.
Park.
So
okay,
you're missing me with those references.
If you're watching right now, folks, look up Eddie Goodell, and I can tell you and assure you that that's the batting stance Derek probably most often replicated. Derek, the big news in the National Football League right now at the time of this taping, and certainly understandably, these things are subject to change literally by the hour. But in the AFC South, the undefeated Tennessee Titans, who right now lead the Colts division at 3-0, we now know that 3 players at minimum, at least 3 players and 5 personnel have tested positive for COVID-19, and as a result of that, the Titans are shutting down their day-to-day operations. Their game Sunday has not been, at this point, compromised, but they also are coming off a game where they played the Vikings, so the Vikings are having to do the same thing. Listen, it feels to me like this is what and we've known this, right? You're walking through a minefield with clown shoes on, and you just happen to know that this is in the NFL right now, and in all of sports, really, when you have this kind of a contact and you know, obviously proximity to one another on the football field, that this is a reality. The NFL is not doing a bubble, so guys are, if they so choose, able to go out and be out in the city and whatever else, and they are put at the same risk as other people. It does make you wonder what this means in terms of the fluidity of the NFL season.
Yeah, I think we'd all be, ignorant if we thought that there were going to be no problems at all, right? I mean, even the NBA, give them credit, they've done the best job, but they have very small rosters,
right? And
they had months to kind of get in front of this and put all this, all this together, and it just worked on a smaller scale for basketball more so than these huge rosters with football. And then you add in the travel and all that aspect and not being in a bubble, kind of like you said. So I think the NFL is just going to have to work through some of this. I hope Tennessee is okay, not only from obviously a health standpoint, but also because they got a big game coming out. I think it's Pittsburgh, isn't it?
I'm not sure.
I'm pretty sure they're playing the Steelers, and of course both of those teams are 3-0. And I was kind of 3 games doesn't tell us everything. The Bears are 3-0 right now, right? So there are some teams that get off to kind of fluky starts, but I was low man on Tennessee. And I've just been super impressed with Ryan Tannehill and what he's been able to do so far. And that is, without question, it's a good roster.
When you have Derrick Henry in your backfield, Derek, you have the luxury of being able to do a lot of different things, I think. Because I think Derrick Henry is – that guy is – you want to talk about a clock-salting back that all you need is – a minimal lead in the fourth quarter, and if you've got him and you've got the ball, it's going to be tough for teams to get you off the field.
Yeah, and they finally have, weapons and guys that they've invested in offensively for so long. Tennessee, remember when they had like Nate Washington and like not Frank Wycheck. Delaney Walker was like their playmaker, and no offense to those guys, but they didn't really have any of those threats, and now it feels like they do a little bit more with, Corey Davis, who they used a high-end pick on, who's taken a little while to come around. But A.J. Brown, who a lot of people loved out of college and had a great rookie year, I think is going to develop into a really nice player. And then, of course, you mentioned Henry as well. It's a good team. And when you look at the division right now, I don't think anybody's really taking Jacksonville seriously as a threat, but you thought maybe Houston could put something together.
Houston?
But Houston's season's going to be over before it starts here if they don't get off the schneid. I know they've had a murderous start to the year, but you could be looking at, if Houston starts 0-4, 0-5, it's a 2-team race in the AFC South.
And speaking of starts, by the way, the Chicago Bears, we now know it's not going to be Mitchell Trubisky, but Nick Foles who's starting.
Yeah, and probably for the best. I mean, at some point you just have to realize what you've got and and call it. You know what I mean? And it's over. It's been over for Mitchell Trubisky. I think it was fairly obvious that he's not their guy. And Nick Foles, this is what he does, man. He's like
I know.
He's like the dude who's that guy that yells at everybody at Restaurant Impossible, not Gordon Ramsay. The other dude,
Restaurant Impossible.
Yeah, he comes in and like if your bar or your restaurant is terrible and you're like hemorrhaging money, he comes in and he screams at everybody and then they like revamp the menu and he fixes it. John Tapper, is that his name?
Sure. Yeah.
Come on, man! You pulled out like a St. Louis Browns reference and you're killing me.
Everybody knows.
People know what Restaurant Impossible is.
Derek, people watch this show and immediately think of Eddie.
Nick Foles is John Tapper, if that's his name. Where he just comes in and he puts out fires, right? Like
right.
he's the professional fire putter outer, and so I think that he's a threat for them. The Bears roster is good. They can't win.
Do you think it's a strategy
in spite
for
of their
a
quarterback?
Restaurant? If you're a restaurant, is it a strategy to be so bad that you get on this TV show and then you become a hit?
Well, I hear a lot of times that what happens, like Gordon Ramsay's Kitchen and Restaurant, not Kitchen Impossible, Kitchen Nightmares, Restaurant Impossible, is that a lot of time they come in and they do the show, and then the restaurant owners are like, hey, he renovated our entire restaurant and gave us a new stove. Let's sell. And then they just sell it.
Of course.
Yeah. So they get themselves out of debt that way instead of being like,
what
let's
shows
continue.
are you watching?
I watch Restaurant Impossible and Kitchen Nightmares. I'm a big Gordon Ramsay guy. We watched Hell's Kitchen a lot, but then it was the same show over and over and over and over again.
Okay.
So we decided, we're not going to do that.
What show did you become hooked on during quarantine? Did you get into Tiger King like everybody else?
Yeah, we get into the documentaries. We just watched the, which you'll like. You have Netflix, right?
Yes.
They have a 4-part miniseries on the Challenger explosion right now, which is fascinating.
I've heard it's good.
Yeah, which I was a little bit too young for, but I have like little memory. I definitely remember the launch of Discovery, which came right after it. But I have like kind of fleeting memories of the Challenger explosion.
Yeah, that was like.
Sorry, not to bring down the whole show.
No, I mean that was like
by dropping that, just shoehorning that in here.
I mean, in 7th grade, that was obviously the pinnacle moment of my 7th grade career. Pinnacle moment of your 7th grade career, finding gum behind your ear.
That was more like 6th grade, but yeah, I did it in wiffle ball where I put it behind my ear. I won the batting crown in the Trumbull Wiffle Ball League with a big piece of big league chew right lodged back here. It was good luck for me.
Uh-huh. Right.
How about other Week 3 NFL thoughts? Patrick Mahomes, Monday Night Football.
Well, look,
it's just stupid what he can do.
Mahomes, every once in a while you have an athlete that comes through and they are so in a zone that you wonder how long it can last. Steph Curry reminds if you think about Steph Curry, he went through this stretch for like 18 months where the guy was seemingly hitting half-court shots in every single game, and you're like, this can't maintain, right? Well, clearly he's pretty darn good. Mahomes is like that. His ability to throw across his body, his ability to throw the ball exactly where it needs to be. He's got nice weapons, obviously, in Kansas City. And, look, I think the Ravens are good, but not as good as Kansas City. That's, Lamar Jackson said, Kansas City, that's our kryptonite, and it was once again.
Yeah, and you worry about the Colts, not that they still can't have a great season, win the division, but when you think about the challenge that presents anybody in the AFC to compete with that, it's just insane what he can do and what he did against a really amazing Ravens defense on Monday night was just crazy.
By the way, do you know why the Atlanta Falcons can't make change for $1?
Tell me.
They only have 3 quarters.
Yeah. They blow it every week.
It's unbelievable.
This is an every week thing.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. Like
the collapse is there. What is going on?
Yeah. I mean, they choke on their vomit every Sunday, really.
Okay, let me just say, family program here, right? We want people to enjoy the show.
I didn't curse.
You didn't curse, but so far you've mentioned, let me just tell you right now, people, how is it possible that you're into these cooking shows and food stuff when you got gum behind your ear, decaying bodies, and choking on your own vomit?
I guess I don't understand what's like off-putting about any of those things. Gum behind your ear, it's a good place to store it.
Let me guess.
Choking on your own vomit is a little graphic.
We're going to talk about Jimi Hendrix next?
We can if you want. He's a talented guitarist, that's for sure.
He was that.
Can we get this out of the way, too? Because there is something that you were right on, and it's very rare that this happens.
Okay. I don't even know what this is.
There was a quarterback a couple of years ago who was in the draft class who was from a smaller school, which you were always a fan of, and I think you had a shirt of. And his completion percentage was like 54% at this smaller school. but he had all the measurables. Like, he looked the part like he was going to be a big-time quarterback. But then again, so did Blaine Gabbert, remember? Blaine Gabbert looked like he was going to be a big-time player. And you were all in on Josh Allen really from like day one, and I was like, I don't think this dude's going to do anything. And again, small sample size, but Buffalo is 3-0, and he looks great.
Well.
He looks great.
Derek, while I appreciate your recognition there, truth be told, I think it was more so, if I remember correctly, I was rooting for Josh Allen more so than I was a true believer in him. I don't know that I was necessarily like, I'm telling you, this guy's the guy, as much as I just thought he was a cool story. The way that he ended up at Wyoming, he was a guy that wasn't recruited by a lot of people, put his own tapes out there, and just kind of grew into the role and became this if you looked at, I think the thing I can't remember, did he come out after his junior year or was he a 4-year guy?
I think he came out after his junior year, but I have to look.
Either way, it was the season prior to his final season. So his second to last college season, when he had good receivers, his numbers were really, really strong. And then they dropped off a little bit in his final season at Wyoming because he was throwing to newer receivers. And so I think he got benefit of the doubt from me in that regard. It looked disingenuous for me to sit here and say that I was, scouting tape on him. I just thought he was a cool story and was hoping he would do well, but he has done so far in Buffalo.
Yeah, 3-year player. So 2017 was his junior year and his last year, and he had that.
What's he have, 33 touchdowns and 3 picks in his last 15, 16 starts, something like that?
Oh, really? Wow. Yeah. Is it like that? Wow. I didn't know it was that good, but he's been great and good for Buffalo. I mean, that was a franchise that stunk for so long, and now it looks like, at the very least,
they were competitive at the end of last year. They
they stunk for like 20 years. They didn't even make the playoffs for most of the 21st century. I'm trying to think if there was something else that I thought that I wanted to mention from Week 3 in the NFL, but I think we covered it all.
Atlanta collapsed. Buffalo is probably better than we think.
Mahomes being Mahomes.
Tennessee is undefeated, but Minnesota didn't look. I'll tell you this, Minnesota in that game against Tennessee, had them on the ropes the entire game, and you're thinking, okay, well, maybe the Colts defense really is that good because Minnesota's offense perked up against Tennessee, and they couldn't do anything against Colts.
Yeah, that's true. And again, 3 games, small sample size. I think you got to get to like 6 before you feel like you have a good handle on who everybody is. But this Colts defensive start so far has been it's been incredible.
Can I put Sage up here on the anvil?
Yeah, as long as it's not the actual owl, I'm cool with it.
I think the owl should be named Hootie. Right?
There's probably copyright infringement on that.
You don't think there is on Sage? Somebody's not copyrighted the spice?
No, Sage the Owl, I don't think somebody has copyrighted. But Hootie, if I was Darius Rucker, I would have TM'd that like immediately.
TM'd it.
Yeah.
You think nobody else came up with the name Hootie before Hootie and the Blowfish came around? There was no purpose anywhere in life for the term Hootie before 1994.
When we got laid off in January, the first thing I did was call Josh, and I said, hey, we've got to my lawyer. We got to legally figure this out here because we need to TM this, we need to TM that. These are my brands that I need to protect.
How'd that work out?
It worked out well. There were a lot of fees, but sure. it ended up working out okay.
Josh is now retired, right?
No, not yet.
We have some Pacers discussion to get to in this show as well, right?
Yeah, we do. Victor Oladipo wants out, according to a report, so we'll talk about that. Also, the NBA Finals set. Major League Baseball playoffs. There's a lot going on right now.
Stanley Cup is now over.
Stanley Cup, yeah. Who knew that it
What a
started?
Celebration.
To be fair, the people that are into hockey are really into it, and it's a great sport to watch live. It's just not something that I've ever gotten into.
We'll get to this on the other side, Derek, and that's one thing that's changed, and I wonder if it's ever coming back. And I'm not talking about Victor Oladipo.
We'll do that next.
Sounds good.
Query and Schultz, ISC Sports Network, back with more.
Touchdown, West Lafayette. Hemingway. Look out, look out. Lowers the shoulder. Great answer by Lafayette. Takes home the victory. Taking down the record. Throws it deep. He's got a man and is taking it. He's trying to find a lane. Walker has hit his second home run of the tournament. And it's going to be a touchdown.
We're a different breed, aren't we? While others rest, we choose to work. Where others are content, we stay hungry. They may not see us coming, but we know exactly where we're going. You won't rest until you succeed. Neither will we.
The drive, the take, fouled, and it goes!
Lobbing it to the back of the end zone. They're going to say it's a touchdown.
Left foot gets through. Goal for Vargas. Hamilton will score!
Welcome back to Query and Schultz, brought to you by our friends at WGU Indiana. Jake rocking the mask as we speak
That
right
is
now,
correct.
with Sage the Owl on it. Since 2010, more than 10,000 Hoosier lives have been changed with a degree from WGU Indiana, the state's affordable accredited online university. WGU Indiana believes that talent is universal, but opportunity is not.
Sage is getting right up there near your gum.
God. Please, don't. You really shouldn't, touch me or...
I'm not touching you
Under
at all.
normal circumstances,
But
especially
what am I
during a
gonna
still
get a call
ongoing
from
pandemic.
Josh, the attorney?
You might. In honor of their 10th anniversary,
Sure.
WGU Indiana will create more pathways between talent and opportunity with the 10th anniversary scholarship. The online university
You know
is
what
going
I'd do
to award...
if Josh, the attorney, called me?
What's that?
I'd sit here and drink out of my WGU Indiana mug.
Okay, can you stop interrupting me here?
I'm
Because this is
like-
actually a really cool thing that WGU Indiana is
very
doing.
cool.
They're going to award $10,000 in scholarship money, 10 Gs, 10K, 10 fat stacks to 10 newly enrolled students. To apply and learn more, visit indiana.wgu.edu/10x10. Or, sorry, 10x0. Want to make sure I got that right.
Can you read that one more time,
Yeah,
please?
indiana.wgu.edu/10x0.
Okay.
You're welcome.
I'm curious, Derek. The Stanley Cup final is complete now. Tampa and Dallas, with Tampa winning at Tampa Bay.
And good for the
By the
NHL.
way-
No problems for COVID. They,
Correct.
like the NBA bubble, everything's gone really well.
By the way, and again, I think it's weird that they call it Tampa Bay because Tampa Bay is a body of water. The city is Tampa, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Green Bay, the city is Green Bay.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
Right?
We've done this rant before.
But it just seems odd,
Yeah.
doesn't
okay.
it?
Go on with what you were saying.
The Tampa Lightning.
Tampa Bay Lightning sounds better.
Well, I know, but no one says, where do you live? I live in Tampa Bay. No, you
Okay.
don't, because
What were you going to say about
Pelicans
Stanley
live in
Cup
Tampa Bay, not people.
You were going to say something about the final.
Sorry. So last night,
Oh my God!
I'm flipping the channels.
Whoa!
I'm flipping the channels, and there were games on. And then recently, the Stanley Cup final was on, and it is different without fans in the crowd at events. And Major League Baseball, for example, with the playoffs, I'm thrilled that the Reds are in the postseason. I know it's under an unusual circumstance they got there. And, I remember when the Reds got into the playoffs, we were doing the show. They were in San Francisco. They take two of them in San Francisco, and it's like, here we go, man.
Yeah.
They are going to the World Series, and I was so stoked. And I'm excited that they're in the postseason, but it's different because it does feel out of sight, out of mind a little bit. And with some of the sports and their seasons being in weird times, the NBA Finals in October, nobody able to attend in person. I think people have gotten out of the habit of live sports, quite frankly. Obviously in attending them in person, but also in watching them when it becomes out of season and things like that. And I am curious, Derek, whether or not that is going to have a long-term effect where people just realize that they've gotten out of that habit and it's difficult to get back into it.
Yeah, I think there's been a recalibration for people just in general in their lives about what's important and what isn't, and sports is part of that because it is a big part of all of our lives.
Sure.
But it's not your family, it's not your job, it's not your financial situation, all these
It's
other,
my job.
It's not your health.
It's the
You know
only
what I mean?
job I have. Yes.
Well, I mean, yeah.
But no, I get what you're saying.
And so I think just in general, there's been a little bit of a recalibration or refocus on priorities in life when it comes to that. But I do worry about particularly the baseball playoffs going up against the NBA Finals. They've always gone up right against the heart of the NFL season, right? So that's not anything new. But this whole format, like best of 3, you know what I mean? Like, how many people even realize what kind of is going on and who is seated where and how this all works? Even for me as a baseball fan, it's been a little bit confusing.
Derek, I don't even know from a baseball standpoint. Like, in the National League, I know who's in. I don't know that I could tell you which are wild cards and which are division winners.
Yeah, because they did it weird. The top 6 were 1-2, 1-2, 1-2 in the divisions, and then 2 wild cards.
Right.
But, you know, does anybody care that the Yankees finished second in the AL
The
East
entire
and the Blue Jays
NL
finished third?
Central is in.
Yeah,
That's what I know,
yeah.
right?
No, you're kind of right about it. But good for the Reds, good for the Marlins, good for these teams that normally wouldn't get an opportunity. I am, though, and I don't want to get too far off the path here because I want to get back to you know, the NBA and Oladipo and all that other stuff. I am firmly against expanding the Major League Baseball playoffs. I'm cool under these circumstances this year, but if we're going to start letting 500 teams in, if you're going to let more than half the league in, then the regular season's already a waste, but it's especially a waste.
You know, the Marlins have never made the postseason as a divisional winner. And in the years, that's correct, right?
Yep.
And in they've never gone to the postseason and not won at all, right?
They've never lost a postseason series.
Yeah. That's amazing. Twice. Only been in twice, right?
You know what else is amazing? Because he didn't make the playoffs last year. With that the Western Conference final wins over the Nuggets, LeBron James teams have won 27 consecutive NBA playoff series.
Does that surprise you? At what point, Derek?
But dude,
at what point are people going to realize, look, this guy's pretty good?
When you say it out loud, though, like 10 NBA finals, 27 straight series wins. When you say it out loud,
Derek,
just insane.
If not for last year, he would have spent an entire decade. You would have had an entire decade with LeBron James in the finals. Yeah. Now, what he did in getting past Denver, a triple-double with, 36, 15, and 10? Mm-hmm. That's the 5th time in his career he's put up a triple-double in an elimination game. There are a lot of great NBA players that don't even play in 5 elimination
Not bad
games.
for a non-winner, right? For a choker.
He's doing it at 35 years old.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Now, granted, at 35 years old, if I'm not mistaken, I think this is right, at 35 would have been Jordan's last ring, right?
Jordan was born in 63, and they won in 98, so yes.
So 35 was Jordan's last ring. Look.
Sorry that I know what year Michael Jordan was born.
It's brilliant. I mean, what he's doing, LeBron James is a brilliant player. There's no doubt. Anthony Davis is a great player. J.R. Smith is back in the finals, right?
Yeah, and Frank Vogel.
How about this, Derek?
Good for Frank Vogel.
Since 1994, somewhere in there? Well, easier said. Of the last 7 coaching hires that the Pacers have made, they have hired 4 coaches that later would go on to coach in the NBA Finals. Only one of them, Larry Bird, was with Indiana when he did so.
Wow.
How about them?
Yeah, because Carlisle with the Mavericks.
Larry Brown.
Frank
Vogel.
Brown with the Pistons,
3
right?
or 4, yeah.
Not Isaiah, though.
Not
Isaiah fell a little bit short of the NBA Finals with the Knicks. Just a little bit.
Yeah, you think? Speaking of the Pacers, I always get a little bit befuddled by this, but everybody, oh my goodness, there's a report out there. Victor Oladipo and Miles Turner won out. And this comes from, and I'm sure very reputable, I'm not saying that, a writer that covers the Boston Celtics, because the Celtics season has come to a close, because the Miami Heat are in the NBA Finals, the same Heat that I said like 6 weeks ago could win the whole thing. I don't think they're going to, but they play very well together. But this Celtics writer said, hey, maybe Gordon Hayward could be a fit in Indiana, and they could perhaps get Victor Oladipo or Miles Turner back because those 2 players want out of Indiana. A lot of people have asked me, and I'm sure asked you, Derek, hey, is this true? Do they want out? I will say this. Victor Oladipo, we've talked about this before. There has been concern on the inside with Victor Oladipo that he's got the wrong people in his ear and that he's listening to the wrong advice. And I don't think that Victor Oladipo is going straight Paul George here. But I do think that Victor Oladipo has a concern about his brand as more than a basketball player. And therefore, I don't know that he necessarily wants out of Indiana as much as he doesn't think that he needs to be in Indiana as much as probably the Pacers would like him to be around. And I think that there is a growing divide between the two parties would be exaggerating it, but I think there is some frustration, probably on both sides. And it stems a lot from Oladipo's side. It stems from him wanting to be somewhere where he can be the musical performer and the entertainer and, the brand. And from the Pacers side, I think it stems from wanting to make sure that he's fully in. But in addition to that, if you're the Pacers, Derek, we've talked about it, you still need to confirm to yourself and make certain that you are getting the pre-injury player. And while he has looked good at times, he has not shown that is who he consistently is. And so the Pacers are in a little bit of a pickle because what is his trade value?
Yeah, but at the same
Entering the final
time,
year of his deal,
they have all the leverage because it's still the final year of his deal. And I just think at this point you just need to explore every option. It's clearly it's over. So let's just move on. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not one of those people that I've had many girlfriends, Jake. It's probably obvious for you. I'm not one of those people that like staying in those relationships. Like once it's done, it's done. Just go. You know what I mean? And I'm so tired of dealing with this. Did
you pull that trigger a lot? Did you?
It's crazy.
Break a lot of hearts.
I'm not really comfortable speaking about my personal life. I just wanted to make a general statement about it, just to affirm what people already suspected. But when it comes to Oladipo, first off, if we're talking about Oladipo and Turner for Hayward, the answer to that for me is a firm no. Absolutely not.
Yeah, because Gordon Hayward is talented as he is, and as much as he's shown, he's another guy that coming off injury, are you getting the same? Are you getting the Utah player
old.
Gordon Hayward?
Yeah, he's not young anymore.
Which is crazy.
And I still think Turner has value because I think he provides a lot of value outside of the Pacers and what they want to do.
Which leads to the other factor in this, Derek, the other side of it, and that is if it is true that Miles Turner wants out, and I don't know that that's true, but if it is.
That wasn't attached to that report, was it?
It was like in the bottom of it.
Okay.
Saying Miles Turner could also be available because rumor is he also wants out. That's the first I've heard that. Miles Turner's under contract. However, we know that the Turner-Sabonis, can they play together? They say they want to. To me, that simply, if in fact Miles Turner wants out of Indiana, that tells me that Miles Turner is aware or has an inkling that they are going to go after an offensive-minded, faster-paced coach that even though Turner, I think, likes to play, away from the blocks, but he is not a fast-paced offense guy, at least at this point. That leads me to believe that Turner thinks that a new coach might not be the best fit for him.
I think that, when you look at Turner and his skill set, if somebody's going to have him come in and be like, okay, just be a shot blocker for us and occasionally step out and shoot threes. If somebody just asks him to do that and doesn't ask him to be like the second guy,
right,
then I think Turner can really flourish because I think he's very good at that. I think problem is that here in Indiana, we wanted him to be either the number one or the number two guy, and he's just not.
Right.
He's not capable of doing that.
Well, he had the unfortunate timing of starting to kind of break through a little bit right at the time that Paul George was walking out the door. So therefore it was,
by default, he
Here
became
we go.
the next guy.
This is the guy. Yeah.
But when you look at the Pacers situation, I think where Kevin Pritchard, it gets a little bit dicey is that you need to make a move where if you deal Oladipo and Turner, you need pieces that can help right now because you just gave that big extension to Brogdon. You're in year 2 of a 3-year deal with TJ Warren. Sabonis, you just gave the extension to. He's hitting the prime of his career. Like, this isn't one of those, hey, let's trade Oladipo and Turner for a bunch of picks and tear it all down.
Right.
You got to kind of find a way to improve upon what you already have because I think the assumption last summer when they made all of these moves was that Oladipo was going to be here for the next 4 or 5 years. They were going to give him the extension, and you had your core of your team already set in place, and obviously that's not the case now.
But I think what we've seen in Miami is if you have really good coaching, which we'll see, where the Pacers go with that, but if you have 5 guys that just really play well together, the East right now, the East is attainable. Now, where is Giannis going to end up long-term? Does he stay in Milwaukee? Does Milwaukee still have pieces to add to him? Does he have more vulnerability than we thought in terms of defeating Milwaukee? Maybe, but there's nobody on Miami's roster, Derek, that clearly jumps out at you as being far superior to their equivalent piece in Indiana. It's just the way they play together, right? I mean,
at this point,
Jimmy Butler he's a get the hell out of the way guy late in the games. However, I've watched the vast majority of their games, and in late game situations, Jimmy Butler is not necessarily the guy hitting shots for them.
No, I think at this point, Adebayo's one of the 15 or 20 best players in the league, and he might be even more than that as he continues to grow. I mean, he has been incredible this year.
But this is not a guy that they drafted a year ago. Sports today, and in particular the NBA, there's such a short window before it's, look, we got to get rid of this guy. We got to get rid of this guy. And Adebayo, they developed him. They gave him time to grow. They didn't throw in the towel. It's like the NFL quarterback game, right? In the NFL, if you're a quarterback and you're a rookie quarterback, you get 8 games before people determine whether or not you are Joe Montana or you are Joe Loser. And in the NBA, they gave him time to grow instead of immediately trying to shop.
You needed a lot of things to hit if you were the Heat, and a lot of those things hit. Give them credit for their scouting and all of that, but you needed essentially late lottery picks to both hit, and they had that with Hero and Adebayo. Duncan Robinson is like finding a $100 bill in a pair of jeans that you haven't worn in 10 years. I mean, Duncan Robinson he didn't even start for Michigan in the championship game, right? A couple of years ago. Yeah. And you never thought that Duncan Robinson was going to be an NBA player, and here he comes in and he performs that role really, really well. So it's an incredibly fun team to watch. I loathe that franchise. I can't stand Pat Riley, and I've always hated the Heat.
Why do you not like Pat Riley?
Well, the Heat and Knicks had a thing when I was growing up. And
Pat Riley was the coach of the Knicks.
Yeah, and then he left the Knicks via a fax and then went over to Miami. And thankfully, the Knicks bounced him out of the playoffs 3 years in a row, which brought me just the greatest pleasure as a high school
kid. Did you like him when he was coaching the Knicks?
Oh, I loved him when he was coaching the Knicks. Yeah. But, so it's kind of like John Starks. You love John Starks if he's on your team. You hate him if he's on the other team.
So you're a fair weather guy.
I'm not a fair weather guy at all. I'm a big loyalty guy. Okay. And Riley wasn't loyal to us. Okay. So I said, screw him. We'll move on. I don't need you. I've got Pat. I've got Oak.
Pat.
Later on, I've got Spree.
Pat?
Yeah, Pat Ewing, Charles Oakley, Latrell Sprewell. Do you watch the NBA, Jake? Like, how do you have this show and not recognize these names? It's kind of, I'm embarrassed for you.
Pat. Now, Charles Oakley, last I knew, was getting kicked out of Madison Square Garden by
don't want to mess with that guy.
Jim Dolan, the worst owner in professional sports.
Okay, you know what I would pay, and I know UFC is really popular. I would pay to see Charles Oakley fight Dale Davis. Like, that would be about. You talk about two guys you absolutely do not want to mess with.
I don't know that either of them really are in their physical prime at this point.
But still, you would not. I don't care if Dale Davis is 80 freaking years old. I'm not messing with that dude.
I am. Gotta like Dale Davis.
Unmessable. Unmesswithable. Yes. There we go. I hit it. You guys can fix that in editing, right? Thank you.
No. Okay. If they don't, what are you going to do? Call Josh, your attorney? What are we doing next?
We've got Bite or Bowl Bleep still to get to.
Oh, that's the wildly popular and now surprisingly sponsored Bite or Bowl.
You're actually working later this week, which you normally don't do. You just kind of sit on the couch all day, and we'll talk about what your working function is coming up Friday and Saturday for this weekend over at IMS. And we got plenty more to get to. I mean, this is a great show. People just love this show.
We've had meetings about it, Derek.
I mean, it's like riding a bike, man. I was worried that it was going to be bumpy, but we really kind of hit the ground running here.
You wouldn't hit the ground running if you're on a bike.
It's Query and Schultz. Back with more next. ISC Sports Network, WGU Indiana.
And then you just coast, but that's defeating the purpose.
See, you're ruining it now.
Oh my God! We are ripping fast today. How hard can it be, right? These are now selling for about $3,500. So we're back to our old ways of pulling rocks.
Act like idiots on camera, open cards, and talk about the hobby.
You can't get enough of us.
You can't get enough of us. Good one, J-Man.
This is the worst scandal. This is
worse than steroid. Not so fast.
Are you going to watch the XFL?
I'll probably watch a little bit of it.
You want to go through and pick some games?
No, I don't. No, I don't. I really don't.
We're a different breed, aren't we? While others rest, we choose to work. Where others are content, we stay hungry. They may not see us coming, but we know exactly where we're going. You won't rest until you succeed. Neither will we.
Brewer jams it home.
That ball wiggles in and into the back of the net.
A little fireworks in the first half. Throw it up for Tillman. Whoa. My goodness.
122.60 for Penn. What a swim. Six of them.
Back here on Query and Schultz on the ISC Sports Network, we will have upcoming the Buy It or Bull Schultz segment, wildly popular, and we've had a lot of good.
Bull Schultz.
Huh?
Bull Bleep. That's what we call it.
Buy It or Bull Schultz. Brought to you by the Shop Indy. You might have noticed some of the T-shirts that we have up here: Busch Stadium, Roslyn Bakery, the Indy shirt, which I'm wearing right here, Burger Chef. So the shop is absolutely fantastic because the shirts are not only comfortable, they not only show off your guns, but in addition to that, we're talking about retro Indianapolis nostalgic things or all of your favorite both college and professional teams in Indiana. And the shop right now has a very cool thing going on where they partnered with Adidas. Just $15, some of the Indianapolis-themed merchandise from the shop. Again, 920 Broad Ripple Avenue or Carmel and Clay Terrace or theshopindy.com. And the Adidas, part of the proceeds going to help out the Indiana Sports Corps, which brings sporting events here to Indianapolis. Adidas, Derek, actually named for Adi Dassler. So technically speaking, it's Adidas.
I knew. I was actually going to say, thanks for not telling your lame Adidas founding story because you feel like you have to put that in all the time.
See that?
Are those Adidas?
Those are Adidas, yep.
Why do you have Nike socks with Adidas?
Those are NBA socks.
Yeah, but that's not – you can't wear Nike socks with
kids
Adidas.
Kids hate that, right?
Everybody hates that. It's a big fashion no-no. Then again, I mean, you know, you're you.
What kind of socks are you wearing? You got your matching Pumas there?
Yeah, I got some Pumas on. No big deal.
Puma, by the way, started by Adi Dassler's brother. Branched off, started his own company, said he was going to pounce like a cat, called it Puma.
How do you know all of this about
I
shoe
know
history?
everything, Derek.
It's a really weird thing. You didn't know any of the 1990s Knicks players.
Okay. Maybe that's because...
Far more relevant to our discussion.
I guess it's ironic that I didn't realize, because I know Adidas, for example, I know Adi Dassler's real name, and therefore it's Adidas, but I didn't know that Patrick Ewing is Pat.
Ready to hit Bite or Bull Bleep?
Sure.
Let's do it. If you're new to Bite or Bull Bleep, here's what we do. I give a statement, then Jake and I go back and forth whether we buy it or we think it's Bull Bleep. Okay. Not Bull Schultz. Bull Bleep. See, you guys put the graphic on the screen where it says Bull Schultz.
That's beautiful.
And
that is wonderful. See, these guys aren't messing around. Derek, they know what they're doing. Look at it right there. Bull Schultz. That's exactly right.
That was not agreed upon by me in my contract. Okay. I'll have to talk to both of the Gregs afterwards, and we'll have to hash that out. So let's do statement number one. We always kind of start Colts. Buy it or Bull Bleep, Jake. The Colts defense will be one of the top units in the league this year. They certainly have been through 3 games, but they haven't played anybody. Buy it or Bull Bleep.
That's the problem. One of the top in the league. It depends on what your definition is, but I'm going to buy this, Derek. I think they have, assuming they stay healthy, which is always a big assumption in the NFL, but what Minnesota was able to do to get some points and move the ball against Tennessee tells me, because you look at what Minnesota was completely stifled by the Colts defense. Look, in week 1, Eberflus, I thought, had some schemes that weren't necessarily taking advantage of what they needed to do to try to corral Jacksonville just a bit. But I do think their defense is skilled. They have young players. Darius Leonard continues to stockpile tackles and numbers. I'll say by the end, depending on what your definition is, but top 3rd in the league?
Top 3rd? That's like top 10, top 11?
Yeah.
No, I'm talking like top unit, like one of the top 5. Top 5, I think, top 5 DVOA.
DVOA?
Yeah. Defense adjusted value over average.
That would be...
It's a Football Outsiders metric.
That makes no sense. DVOA, and then it stands for what?
Defense adjusted value over average.
Okay, so that's DAVOA.
No, just DVOA is what they call it. Yeah.
But you threw in an extra A.
I mean, even when you take just the regular stats, the Colts are number 1.
Why don't you just call it the DVOA?
That sounds idiotic. The Colts are number 1 in total yards allowed.
Is that the DVOA?
And so that's a traditional stat. Also, I haven't looked up points since last night, so I'm not sure total defense-wise where they rank, but I would assume they're right there.
Why don't you just tell me they're Devoa?
Because they gave up, what, 7 to the Jets, 27 to the Jags.
Devoa, you can save yourself all of that extraneous information.
And did they give up 11? Wasn't it a weird number last week to the Vikings? How many points did they give up to the Vikings?
I was focused on the Devoa.
26-11, I think is what it was. Okay. But, yeah, I do think that this can be that, and they've been very impressive so far. DeForest Buckner's done exactly what they've wanted him to do as kind of the middle of that
continues
defense.
To make plays.
And what I'm most impressed by, Jake, is that they've done it with a banged-up secondary, because that was a big problem for them going into the year. You thought, oh, God, what are they going to do at secondary? And they lose Kenny Moore, they lose Malik Hooker, and yet here's T.J. Carey stepping up, and Xavier Rhodes has been great.
Rhodes has played well.
Which is I'm really surprised by, because he looked completely washed and terrible in Minnesota last year. Statement number 2, buy it or bull bleep. How about this?
People, by the way, you can feel the tension in the air of people waiting for question number 2.
Oh, it's crazy. Yeah.
Buy it or bull Schultz.
Yeah, you can cut it with a knife.
Yeah, okay.
The Pacers made a mistake moving on from Frank Vogel, who's now in the NBA Finals. Buy it or bull bleep.
I liked Frank Vogel, but I think Frank Vogel to Nate McMillan was probably lateral. So I don't know that you necessarily – Vogel, I think, when he was here – the thing that Frank Vogel really needed, I think, was a strong veteran presence to, the biggest advantage Frank Vogel has right now in Los Angeles, aside from the obvious, which are LeBron James and Anthony Davis, okay? And that's taking nothing away from Frank Vogel. But Vogel is the kind of coach that the best situation for him is for his team to be in a bubble, because if there's one thing about him in Indiana that was a shortcoming, it was just kind of a lack of overall discipline. And I don't mean that guys were running around. This was not the Wild Wild West with the Pacers by any stretch, but guys being a little bit flexible on start practice times or showing up to the bus, things like that he just kind of let slide. And, in the bubble, you obviously that's not even an issue, right? So he is in the perfect situation. And it would have been just fine had he stayed here. It's not like things would have completely imploded, but Nate McMillan was brought in because he was able to kind of tighten those things up, and then maybe you've got to find a happy medium between the two.
I think sometimes it's just time for a change.
I think Vogel's a perfectly fine coach, but I understand there was a need for change.
I'll defend Vogel here. The roster fell apart after the 12, 13, and 14 runs, where you had that core of Hibbert and West and George and all of that, because – you had, obviously, West move on. Hibbert mentally disintegrated, for lack of a better term. And then basically, that last team that he had was like C.J. Miles, Monte Ellis, Paul George. I mean, that team stunk in Vogel's last year. That's not Frank Vogel's problem. There wasn't enough talent here. I don't think he got let go. He wasn't technically fired, right? They let his contract expire.
I think that's right.
I don't think that he got let go because he was a poor coach. I think they just felt like they wanted to move on.
Allegedly pleaded for his job.
So, well,
who wouldn't, right?
I didn't love the way Bird handled that. I thought Vogel deserved a little bit better. But then again, I haven't liked the way, Larry Bird is very much been an emotionless guy when it comes to those decisions. So he stayed on brand there, but I thought Vogel deserved better than that.
I think anybody, you would have to be happy for Frank Vogel. There's no reason to not be happy for Frank Vogel.
Yeah, we had him on the show when he took the job in Orlando, who never really gave him a chance. They gave him 2 years. And couldn't have been a nicer dude. He was like thrilled to be back on the air in Indianapolis, and obviously thrilled because of our brands aligning once again.
Okay.
Frank Vogel's brand now as an NBA Finals head coach, and the brand of Corey and Schultz.
Yeah. He
also
gave us
part of that.
He gave us tutorials on what happens when you're laid off.
So no, context-wise, bull bleep. They moving on from Frank Vogel is not the right decision, but maybe the hire that they did make, and I don't even think Nate McMillan did a poor job here. I've never been enamored with Nate.
These
McMillan.
WGU masks are fabulous.
They're nice, yeah.
Wonderful.
We've got one more statement.
Okay.
And I don't even know how this slipped in here because this is sacrilege to me, but I know how you're going to answer. It's National Coffee Day. We're taping this on Tuesday. Buy it or bull bleep, coffee is overrated. I'm so angry.
Derek, just so you know, of the two of us, only one was formerly a barista. I could make you the best latte, the best cappuccino.
You worked professionally as one?
Yes.
Where?
Casey's Coffee and Tea, 82nd and Dean, no longer an establishment.
Okay.
Surprisingly.
Good for you.
After me making their drinks.
So you could make me a skinny latte?
I can't make you skinny.
Actually, you know what I'm kind of big on too? Besides just lattes, is those frozen, what are they called? Not cappuccinos, macchiato. It's got like 7. You know it's a good coffee drink when it's got like 8 names that you can't even pronounce.
Okay, a lot of people don't realize at one of the bigger coffee chains, when you get the drink that's got all kinds of flavoring and whipped cream and drizzle on it, that thing's like 1,600 calories.
It's energy. Calories are basically energy.
Coffee, okay, you're going to think that I'm going to say that coffee's overrated.
Yeah.
Because
you don't drink coffee. Because you're a psycho.
I don't drink coffee because I can't sip things. Have you ever gone? I think actually on a handful of occasions you have been somewhere at dinner where I have gotten a beer.
You drink beer faster, and you're not a drink like I've never seen you intoxicated. I've never seen you have more than 2. I don't think
that's probably about right
in any sitting. But you drink it in like 30 seconds.
Correct.
Yeah, it's insane. Like it's 2 gulps. Like if you get a glass,
that's right.
Gulp, and that's it. It's gone.
Correct. So that's the only reason I don't. So iced coffee, I can do. When we went on vacation in October and went to Paris and stayed around the corner from, and there was a major American coffee chain there. So there's familiarity there, right? And so each morning I would go, and Shannon always wanted a coffee from this place. So I would go and get the iced version and chug it because I got to chug it. Iced coffee, not necessarily tasteful. But coffee has a ton of health benefits. Believe it or not, a ton, including I think it's pretty good for your kidneys. It kind of cleanses things.
Really?
Yeah, I think that's right. I could be wrong.
Because of you have to use the bathroom afterwards?
I don't know. That's a good question, but I know that it supposedly has a lot of benefits. Just straight black coffee, I'm talking.
Gotcha.
So coffee actually probably underrated.
Yeah, it's ridiculous that this squeezed in there. Coffee is absolutely not overrated. It's the best thing that ever
Well, who
happened.
squeezed it in?
I guess I hate myself for putting it in there.
I mean,
I'm mad at myself. I don't know what I was thinking. I put some of this together like late last night, and I think I was just a little bit loopy. I needed coffee, and I don't know why I put that in there.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm actually going to go get it. It's National Coffee Day, so a lot of these places are just giving away free coffees.
Really?
So I'm just going to go and just get a bunch of free ones.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, do we have one more timeout that we have to get to?
I don't know.
I completely lost track of the bookkeeping.
Hang on. I'm looking over. They're asleep.
Because I lost track.
They need their coffee.
I don't know why today I haven't felt like I've had a good handle on how long we've gone and everything. You know, it's such a good show. It flies by. So you forget how much content you've actually put in there.
Okay.
How about this? We'll have one more timeout. We'll come back with a wrap and some thank yous. And then I did want to talk about the IndyCar thing this weekend for you. Because I think it's going to be kind of a cool event over there at IMS. It's Query and Schultz back for a final time next on ISC Sports Network presented by WGU Indiana.
Your life is on the go. Now your viewing habits can be on the go. With the ISC Sports Network app, your team is at your fingertips. You can download years' worth of content from the ISC Sports Network library. High school, college, special events, weekly and monthly shows, wherever you find your favorite app. And you can always find out more information at iscsportsnetwork.com.
We're a different breed, aren't we? While others rest, we choose to work. Where others are content, we stay hungry. They may not see us coming, but we know exactly where we're going. You won't rest until you succeed. Neither will we.
Brewer jams it home.
That ball wiggles in and into the back of the net.
A little fireworks in the first half. Throw it up for Tillman.
Oh, my goodness.
122.60 for Penn.
What a swim! Six of them.
Back for a final time on Query and Schultz, ISC Sports Network. I'm Derek Schultz. Jake Query is here as well. Show is brought to you by our friends
What are you
at
laughing
WGU
at?
Indiana.
You're already laughing. Why are you
I don't know.
laughing?
I thought that was kind of funny. Just be like, yeah, Jake Query's here as well. But we know why you guys are tuning into this show. We know why. We have metrics and all that stuff. We study this stuff. Since 2010, more than 10,000 Hoosier lives have been changed with a degree from WGU Indiana, the state's affordable accredited online university, and they've got a really cool deal coming up here, $10,000 scholarship to 10 newly enrolled students. To apply and learn more, visit indiana.wgu.edu/10x0, 10 by 0.
Okay. And your metrics say that people are watching for what reason?
For me. Well, at least, we kind of split it male and female, and male finds also find
how many meters
more
taller
favorable. But female especially. I mean, the metrics, it's crazy. It's like 85-15.
What do you 1.6 meters?
Last one I checked. What do you mean?
Your height.
What are we? We're in Indiana, so speak English.
You're the one talking metrics.
1.6 meters.
You're the one talking
heck
metrics
are you talking
over
about,
here.
man?
I don't know. You and your metrics, I figured you'd know.
I'm 5 feet 6 inches with shoes on.
Did you gain any kilograms during the...
I actually have dress shoes that put me at 5'7", which I like to wear a lot, especially to weddings, because it's harder when you're dancing. You know what I mean? Like, you want to be taller.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay, well.
It all works out naturally.
Yeah, congratulations on hitting the genetic lottery.
What were you asking about IndyCar?
Well, just that it's happening this weekend, and you're actually going to work, so you gotta get out of bed before, I don't know, 1:30.
I do have to do that. So this is the Harvest Grand Prix. This is a new event on the calendar, and no secret about the fact, and obviously with the pandemic happening and IndyCar having to cancel and move the schedule around for a lot of events, that required for additional races to be added. That's redundant, I realize. But the Harvest Grand Prix was selected to run in October. Now, there are a couple of things that came into play here, Derek. Number one, I don't know this for a fact, but I think it's pretty widely agreed upon or understood that they had to open up a weekend as well for the possibility that the Indy 500 could slide to that, if they had to delay that further. So the weekend was there. You need the races, and so they do a doubleheader on the road course called the Harvest Grand Prix. Now, you may say to yourself, well, something like that's never been done, right? Interestingly enough, back in 1916, Carl Fisher owned the Indianapolis Motor Speedway and anticipated the possibility that because of the outbreak of World War I, that they were not going to be able to hold an Indianapolis 500-mile race in 1917. So after running the 1916 Indianapolis 500 and then figuring out that he was going to have a lot of lost income in 1917, he decided to hold a triple header, if you will, a 20-mile, a 50-mile, and a 100-mile race in mid-September. Actually, I think it was September 9th, so early September of 1916, and it was called the Harvest Sweepstakes, I think is what they called it at that time. Johnny Aiken, an Indianapolis native who was the first man to lead a lap in the Indianapolis 500 in 1911, actually won all three of those races. But so this kind of pays tribute to what took place back there in 1916 in very unusual circumstances. But doubleheader weekend, and then scheduled still tentatively to be in St. Petersburg for the conclusion in October. And we'll see what happens in terms of Scott Dixon with a pretty dominant lead in the
points.
I
was going to say, is that even in question? I mean, it would have to. It would take kind of a catastrophic finish for him. Correct?
If he has a good weekend here at the Harvest Grand Prix and finishes in the podium, and certainly one or both of those races, it's going to be very difficult.
I don't remember. Has he won the road course race here in the 5 years or no?
He did win.
Power won it a couple times. Pagenaud won a couple times. Has Dixon won that race?
I think Dixon won. Did Dixon win it this year, right? They won it this year.
They ran it this year?
Yeah, the Grand Prix of Indianapolis, 2 weeks before the 500.
I don't even remember that.
Where were you?
What month was that? August?
That was in August, yes.
We're not that far removed from August. How do I not remember that?
I don't know.
Are you sure that happened? I'm looking it up right now.
Okay.
You
look it up and let me know.
Well, you work for the IndyCar Radio Network, so I would
Derek,
hope that you would remember.
In your defense, I mean, I have to sit here and think back because you said what month is it, and I almost said May, of course. And then you forget it was October.
2020. Yeah, IMS.
Or not October, August, I mean.
Wow.
Who won?
July 4th weekend. That's what it was. It was the doubleheader.
Right.
Yeah,
That's
okay.
right.
Yeah, and they did the doubleheader with
Dixon
NASCAR.
won, right?
Yes, he did. Yep.
You're right.
It
So
ended up
was-
being the second race of the year because he won the first 3. He won
You
in
know what?
Texas, and then he won in Road America.
Now it comes back to me. It was July 4th weekend where you had the Xfinity race on the road course, the IndyCar Grand Prix on the road course from an IndyCar standpoint, and then the Brickyard on Sunday.
And we're getting old,
that
too.
Xfinity race was fabulous.
Yeah, we're getting old, too. I actually have heard rumblings that they're going to eventually put the Cup cars. I think they want to be on the oval because it's not really Indy unless you're on the oval, right. for them. But they're getting more and more looking at that as an option.
That Xfinity race on the road course was really something. I mean, there was a lot of really good races.
I don't prefer stock car road racing, but I know a lot of people do.
No, I understand.
And it can be, and unlike the open wheel cars, you touch, you're screwed. It's actually kind of fun to see them kind of, rubbing up and all of that.
Yep.
Yeah, I enjoy that.
No question about it.
But anything, the super speedway, I just don't think really fits.
Did you bang
and the
anvil this
banking
weekend?
at IMS, I don't think really fits stock car racing.
Did you bang the anvil this weekend?
I don't think I have banged it. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, you mean at the Colts game? No, Blue is doing that. I'm not allowed in the Colts games.
Why?
I don't have a credential.
Okay.
I don't have one.
All right.
I applied for one.
Did you really?
Yeah. And they
Before
said,
we were
wait.
doing this, what did you put down as your media representation?
I put my Gmail account. So I was like, hey, I've been credentialed for 10 years.
I
How
have
about
Amazon
it?
Prime. Let me in. Is that what you said?
They gave me, they're always really nice over there. Matt Conti and Pam and everybody that is over there. Steve Campbell does a great job. And I'm obviously, I didn't have one to represent, so I actually didn't put in for this year. But I knew that they were going to limit it anyway. So there was probably a chance that even if we were still working in our old capacity, that our seat might not have existed for this year.
Okay.
But Ken still gets a seat, so I don't know. Maybe we would have had a seat.
Yeah. High barometer.
You wouldn't have had your seat because you barely show up. You'd go for like one play, get a couple of the mixed nuts, and then leave.
That is correct.
Just steal their food.
That's correct.
And a free soda.
Right.
That's what you do.
Well, I have to sit next to you. Why would I stick around?
Next week, we'll have the chance to recap what we think might kind of be a good team that the Colts are facing. Certainly better than the first 3 teams that they've faced.
How about this one, Derek? Buy it or bull Schultz on this. Between now and next week, there will be an interruption of schedule with at least one NFL team.
I'm going to say bull bleep.
I would agree with that for now.
Yeah, but that could change. In fact, by the time you're watching this, maybe that will have already changed. But Colts-Bears recap, we'll have much more fun. I don't know. Maybe we'll talk more chewing gum.
Yeah,
Next
behind
episode
your ear.
of Query and Schultz.
Okay.
Thanks to WGU Indiana. Thanks to the Shop Indy. I want to thank the crew as well here real quick. Shout-outs to Greg Mash, Greg Rakestraw, of course, but also the behind-the-scenes people, Sean Walker, Jordan Shaw, Jake Morris, Wes Wolf, for making this possible. All great dudes.
And they were able to move around some flexibility. When
Yeah, Mr. Diva over here.
I'm not a diva.
We got to go. We'll see you next week, guys. Thanks for tuning in.
Touchdown, West Lafayette. Hemingway. Look out, look out. It lowers the shoulder. Great answer by Lafayette. Takes home the victory. Taking down the record. Throws it deep. He's got a man and it's taking it. Trying to find a lane. Walker has hit his second home run of the tournament. And it's going to be a touchdown.
We're a different breed, aren't we? While others rest, we choose to work. Where others are content, we stay hungry. They may not see us coming, but we know exactly where we're going. You won't rest until you succeed. Neither will we.
Your life is on the go. Now your viewing habits can be on the go. With the ISC Sports Network app, your team is at your fingertips. You can download years' worth of content from the ISC Sports Network library. High school, college, special events, weekly and monthly shows, wherever you find your favorite app. And you can always find out more information at iscsportsnetwork.com.
We're a different breed, aren't we? While others rest, we choose to work. Where others are content, we stay hungry. They may not see us coming, but we know exactly where we're going. You won't rest until you succeed. Neither will we.